Alright, so we're back here at the workbench. We have our clear coats all dried up now, so we're ready to go ahead and start on to some of our final parts of this process of building a locomotive. What we're going to go ahead and do here first is, before we start doing anything else, I'm going to take and put a little bit of this micro gloss here from Microscale on all of our number board housings, because they currently have a bit of dull coat on them, so I want to go ahead and put some of this on there and get it drying a little bit. And give it some time to dry while we do some other parts of this build. So let's go ahead and we'll just put that right on there. This way, hopefully as well, the decals for the number boards will stick pretty well. They won't be coming off or doing anything funky. So we'll just go ahead and we'll put that on there now, and then that gives that time to dry while we remove the tape from the cab windows and do our the little bit of work we got to do with getting like the rear view mirror, wind deflector deals put on there, as well as doing the wiper blades. Blech. So just put a little bit on there. Don't have to be too careful with it, because we're going to end up putting some dull coat over the top of the number boards once we're finished with it. But again, that's just micro gloss from Microscale, and I just have this little micro brush that I use for applying it. So we got that all done there. Let's go ahead and start taking our tape off of our cab windows here. Now, the trickiest ones to do are these ones where we taped inside the door a bit, just because they're kind of, you don't want to bump the door, but you got to get that tape out of there. So normally you can kind of just pick it up a little bit along the edge and it'll start to come out. It just can be a bit finicky, because you don't want to knock all that inside the cab either. There we go. This is also why it's kind of important when you're putting the tape on here originally. You don't want to press it down too hard, because it'll be a real pain to get it back off of there. But you just use your knife to just get under the edge of it and flip it up, and then normally you could pull it off the rest of the way with the tweezers here. So I'll go ahead and get the rest of that off, and I'll come back here when we start doing the final detailing. Alright, let's go ahead and get our cab mirrors installed here. Unfortunately, earlier in the build, I forgot about this point in the process, and I forgot to drill holes for my wipers as well as the mirrors here. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do this the afterthought way. I have my mirror cut out here. This is from KV Models. And what I've done is I've got a little bit of black paint on the ends of it there. It's not wanting to show up. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here by my window, and I'm just going to get it about where I want it and just make the little guide spots there with the black paint. I'll go ahead and set that down. This is the same as when we were doing our detail work earlier, where we're going to make our guide spots. And we're going to come back with our thumbtack, and we're going to make a little indent into the plastic, so that way our drill bit has a place to kind of sink into there. And then we'll take our very, very small drill bit and drill on through there. So I'm going to go ahead and drill that off camera, and I'll come back when I'm gluing that in place. Alright, so I got the holes drilled in there. They're not all the way through, they're just in there pretty much most of the way through. I didn't want to go all the way through because I didn't want to risk knocking the window plastic out from the inside. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is just get a little bit of CA glue on each end, on those tips of this wind deflector, and I'm going to go ahead and just get it lined up and put it in the little holes we drilled. At least get it most of the way in there. Like I said, I didn't drill in too far. I just wanted to get it in there enough that it'll seat in there and that it'll hold it in place, but I didn't want to risk putting it too far in. So now that's on there, like so. Now next we got to do our wiper blades, which will be a bit of a trick. Basically this is going to be the same deal. The only difference is going to be I'm not going to mark where I'm drilling my holes. I'm just going to eyeball it and pretty much drill them right in the center of the windows. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll come back when we're diving into the next steps of the process. Alright, so we have our wiper blades installed. I did run into a bit of an issue doing the front ones here. I could drill the hole for the one right in front of the engineer, but for the ones in the middle, I ran into a bit of trouble trying to get the drill bit in there, so I just kind of had to put them in there and glue them there. Same with this one on the back here, same issue. Kind of is what it is. It's not the best look in the world, but for what we're going for, which is, you know, getting shots at track speed, etc. on the layout, it'll look great. So we're going to go ahead and leave that be. What we're going to do before we start doing all of our light lenses and getting those glued in place, I'm going to go ahead and do the next step of my number board process here. These are from shell scale decals here. These are specifically for backlit number boards that are black. So the numbers font is not exactly correct to what I need, but this is kind of one of those got to kind of compromise a little bit to get what I want, and to have the numbers and have things look, to have like black number boards with light white numbers. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do here is I got to get my pretty much these outer bits cut out here. We're going to go ahead and get these on and drying. That way, hopefully, by the time we finish getting all of our light lenses done, these will be dry enough that we could go ahead and start putting the numbers on the number boards and wrapping this whole project up. So, bumping the camera. So I've got that cut out. I just need my micro set and my number boards. I can get a little bit of that on there. And since we put the micro gloss on here, these should come off and on there really easily. We'll have to see here. They should. You know, things go with projects and the word should, guys. That things always work really well, and then there's always that one time it just does not like to go the way you want. But that's actually going on there fairly easy. Now this can be kind of the tricky parts, getting these lined up correctly and getting them straight and square and lined up right. I normally try to get them most of the way, and then I'll take a little piece of my paper towel here, and I come in and I just get it right up on the edge. That way it'll pull some of that excess microsol out from underneath it and help it seat down where it should be. You just gotta be careful, because if it's still wet, it's gonna slide around all over the dang place, and you're gonna be cursing like there's no tomorrow trying to get it to sit where it's supposed to sit at. So that one actually went on there pretty nice. And all I'll do is I'll kind of take and eyeball it from the front here and make sure it's kind of they're even-ish. It's really difficult to get them exact because these number board deals are a little bit bigger than the cutouts are on the Atlas models, but just kind of you get what you get here. You could, I suppose, if you really wanted to, put these on before you installed your number boards for the final time, but personally I don't care for doing that, because you end up running the risk that the number boards could chip off. Some of these decals could chip apart and off of the number board plastic, so I prefer just to do it this way and just come in here and kind of do it as an after thing. Not ideal, but kind of the best we can do when we're working on one of these Atlas models. So let me go ahead and get this last one installed, and I'll come back when we start doing all of our light lenses. And I think I'm going to go ahead and clip my trip pins for my couplers off as well too. Alright, so we got our number boards drying. So what we're going to go ahead and do here is we're going to do our lenses for our lights next. So what I've got is these little light lens pieces that comes with the Details West ditch light housings. And I'm just going to take my knife and trim them off their sprue here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 of these for the ditch lights and 2 of these for the headlights, because these actually fit the headlights really, really well. So why not use them for that if we got them? This is a pretty simple process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a scrap toothpick I keep around here for gluing, and I'm just going to take and I'm going to put a little bit of CA glue on the end of it, and just get some CA glue right on the end of the ditch light housing. Okay, right on like the inside of it on the end. Just get it on there all good like. And I'll take my lens, I'm going to very carefully pick it up with this toothpick. I don't want to get the whole toothpick in there onto it. I just want to just barely be picking it up because I don't want it to stick. I just want it to just be able to pick it up. And the tricky part is making sure you get these lenses to stick out the correct direction. That could be a bit of a trick to do from time to time, but normally they'll sit right inside that housing just right. Sometimes they'll stick up a little bit. I don't really worry about that all too much if they don't sink down in there or anything. I just more or less just want them on there so that they're on there. They don't have to be perfect or anything in this type of application. They're just covering up that LED and giving you that lens appearance there on the front. And it's the same process here with the headlights. We just take our CA glue, just a little bit there. We're going to just get it around the outer edges of the housing here. I might need to push this LED in just a little. Actually it might work right where it's at. So you kind of want to have your LEDs far in there, but you don't want to pull them too far to where they're going to disappear back into the shell there. If you keep them nice and close to the front, you'll be able to have some really good bright headlights. So there's that lens on there. And there's that one. Just gotta go ahead and get that to pop right up into its spot there. And these just fit really, really nicely on there, so that's why I just end up using the same ones there. So that's what we have for our ditch light and number board housings, for the ditch light and headlight lenses. So it's the same exact process for the front and the rear. Now for the marker lights, I actually have to make lenses, so I'm going to just do a quick demonstration on this because there isn't really a lot of perfection to this, so to speak. It's pretty crude really when it's all said and done, but what I have here is some of this like clear, I think this is like fiber optic cord or something. I don't remember what the heck they call this stuff. But I got it on eBay. I got like a really big lot of it a few years ago. But basically you get this stuff, and what you do is you take it and you want to heat the end of it a little bit, okay? So then what it'll do is it'll kind of make a little round lens there. Hopefully that's showing up alright. Sometimes they come out a little bit unlevel, a little bit not right, but sometimes they come out pretty good. That one's pretty good. So what I'll do is I'll just take and I want to cut it off as close to the end as I possibly can. I get that? Yep, there we go. Cut it off as close to the end of it as I can. So I want it to be fairly flat and level. And then it's the same process as the other lights where you just get a little CA glue and put it on our little spot there. And then we just want to pick up our lens and hopefully it should just pop right in place there, like so. Now this can take a little bit of practice and a little bit of time to really perfect making these. You know, that's kind of the beauty of this stuff, is it's really cheap. You can get a pretty good bit of it for very, very little money. At least you used to be able to. I'm not sure about today in 2022 or not, whether you still can, but when I purchased, I bought this, I barely went through probably a quarter of how much of it I have, so let's get that to sit there. So there's one. And again, same process. You just want to get your lighter, let's get the end of this, and just barely get the end of it to melt, okay? So then we get a little lens deal is all we're after there. Again, we'll just cut that off. And what you do is when you put your blade down, just walk it down to the end where that lens is wider, and then you can just press it down. And it'll give you a nice clean cut there. Let's go ahead and get our CA glue on this side. Go ahead and put that little guy in place. But you could also do this to make your headlight lenses as well. I just use the Details West ones because I have plenty of them and they fit so nice. I'd rather just use those. That way I can have a nice clear bright headlight. So all right, and there we have it. That is all of our light lenses that are made up for the front. Now if you have like if you're building say an SD40R or an SD60, SD50, you can paint those lenses red as well. Just use a little bit of red acrylic paint, as I know those ones had red lenses, but for these older units, these just had clear looking lenses on them, and then since we have the red LEDs on there, they'll light up red when we activate that function on our decoder. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get all the lenses done on the back side of this locomotive, and I'll come back here when we're doing our final step of this whole project here, which will be our finished putting our numbers on our number boards. And then we'll actually be all done with this, so look forward to getting to that here shortly. Alright, so we have our number boards all ready to go here. One little thing to note, I did forget to get on video here me putting this fresh engine oil from MIG products here on the sides of the fuel tank here to simulate a little bit of fuel spill. You want to do this after you put all your clear coats on because this has a glossiness to it. So if you do it before you clear coat, it ends up kind of dulling down the glossiness, and you want that to look like it dripped all over the place out of there. So just did that. I forgot to film it because I'm working on this and letting things dry and working on another locomotive at the same time right here, trying to get some projects done. So I've already went ahead and I trimmed out my numbers for my number boards here, and what I like to do is I'll cut them out in like pairs of 2. So we have the 2 that'll go for the front, and then we got the 2 for the rear. What I do is I do all the ones on the front, and I do all the ones on the rear. So just get a little micro set on there. Yeah, wait for that to act. Now this can be a bit tricky to get this to go all right here. Sometimes these number board backings will come up and start moving around when you go to slide the number on there. Just got to use a little bit of patience and they'll go on there. That one actually just went really, really well, which that's quite surprising since I'm filming this. A lot of times you really end up fighting with these to get them centered where they got to go and have them fitting right and looking right, and it never fails. You start getting on there and the dang backing piece will start moving around and all that. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to knock these out real quick here. Hopefully these will actually go on here decent and won't have to fight them too much. As I mentioned, these numbers aren't the exact font that this locomotive had, but they're kind of more of a close enough, as close as I could find that'll work for this. So as you guys can see there, of course we put our second number on and our first number moved. That's what I was talking about there, about these things will fight you a little bit if you're not careful. So you got to kind of get them to slip around a little bit and get one to sit on top of another one, and it could be a real pain in the rear end to get these to do what you need them to do sometimes, but you just got to, you know, mess around with it a little bit. And try not to hit your camera if you're filming too. That's always a... Now the alternative, if you really want to not fight this too much, is to do one number, let it dry for a while, and then come back to the other number, and just keep doing that process on the whole locomotive. That also is another decent way about doing it, but normally I don't fight these that much, so I try to just throw them on there and get them to go. That, and two, I'm used to using a just a blank number board for the back, not having these little strips in between like these black ones have, so I'm kind of used to having to put them all on there and try and get them spaced out evenly. So there's the first two numbers. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest on, and then I'll come back when we go ahead and do our clear coat here before we head over to the layout and run this beauty. Alright, so our number boards are now dry. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to seal them in with a little bit of this Tester's dull coat in a little bottle here. And really, you don't have to use dull coat. This is just what I have. I picked this bottle up a few years ago, and I've just been using it a little bit at a time to do these number boards. But I like the flat finish for number boards, and that I don't like them glossy, so this is just what works best for what I like. But you just get a little bit on a micro brush and just very gently go ahead and coat over the top of it. And do this for all four number boards. Just get around the edge really good and seal them in. And that'll be a wrap for this part of the project. So the only thing left to do will be to take this over and track test it. So we'll go ahead and we'll head on over to the layout and get this locomotive running.